Hi, thanks for joining us and welcome to the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. One of my favorite summer memories from childhood is running around the yard catching lightning bugs in a jar. Do you remember that? Well, today we're going to talk about fireflies and other fun summer critters. Some that are okay for kids to catch and observe and some that aren't. And if you've planted onions this year, stay tuned. We're going to show you how to make a tasty dip using caramelized onions. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South, so don't go away.
This is a production of WKNO Memphis. Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Goodwin's Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi, welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Priscilla Eddins. Priscilla is a UT Extension agent in Tipton County, and Andy Williams is here. Andy is the director of Lichterman Nature Center. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks
this is going to be fun.
It is. It is.
We like the taste, though, don't we, Andy?
It smells wonderful.
And it smells great.
Thank
now,
you.
Priscilla, caramelized onions.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about
onions.
that.
Yes. Well, first, caramelized onions is a process that takes a while. Okay. And there's no need to rush this particular process. Okay. So first, I want to talk about what I started with, and here we have the finished product of the caramelized onions. Okay. Andy, will you hold that for me?
Sure.
Okay. When you start the caramelized onions, you want to start off with a large skillet. Okay. A large skillet, make sure that you have a lid. And I started off by melting the butter and the olive oil. And we start off with 2 tablespoons of the butter and the olive oil.
Okay.
And so once that butter starts to melt, you want to go ahead and add your onions. And for this particular recipe, we use 2 large onions.
Okay.
All right. So we want to add the onions, and notice that the onions were thinly sliced. Okay. So when we first started, this pan was full.
All right.
Okay. And so you'll notice that it cooked down, and it cooks down to maybe about a cup. About a cup, you would say.
Now, let me ask you this. Does it matter what kind of onions we use for this?
It really doesn't matter. It's all a personal preference.
Okay.
And actually, we use the yellow onions. So yellow, red, any onions that you'd like. It's all a personal preference.
Okay. Andy, do you like onions?
Absolutely. The caramelized onions are really one of my favorite dishes.
Oh, okay.
Good.
So you're in love. How about that?
Good. I think you'll enjoy this. Well, the other thing that I want to mention that when I added the onions, I did add a little salt.
Okay.
Just to help bring out the moisture of the onions. Okay. And so again, this process takes about 45 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
So
How
you
often do
don't.
you stir it?
You want to continue to stir the onions every 10 minutes or so, keeping that lid on top of the skillet. Okay. So that's a process that takes a while. And if you'll notice in the pan every now and then as you're stirring, you may have residue from the onions to build up. And so that's why it's good to keep a glass of water nearby to just kind of pour that water and continue to stir.
Okay.
Okay. And so this is the finished product. Really simple to make, but again, it's low heat and slow cook time.
Okay. Now tell me this, 45 minutes to an hour. Can we shorten that process? Is there a way to do that? All right, okay.
You cannot shorten the time frame of it. Again, we want those onions to soften first. It's a process that it has to go through. And so those onions have to soften, and then it goes through a process of browning, and that gets to the caramelized state that we want it to be.
Okay.
I guess if you turned the heat up, you'd have charred onions ready to
You
caramelize.
would. It's more like sauteing onions real fast. And that's the difference with sauteed and caramelized. But I tell you, with the caramelized onions, it's worth the wait. And I think you know that, Andy.
All right, so it's worth the wait.
It is.
Do you ever add a pinch of sugar or is that a personal preference?
It's a personal preference. You can add sugar. Here we added salt, but again, it just kind of helps with the flavor. And most people would like to serve the caramelized onion as a side dish, and they can add sugar or salt. And others would like to top it off maybe on grilled meat. I know this is July.
This
and
is July.
This is the
right.
time to get out on the grill. And so it tastes good on meat, sandwiches, and pizza, of course.
Okay.
Or this fall, you can make French onion soup.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a favorite. So.
Okay. All right, Priscilla, what's next?
Okay. So from here, we're going to move this to the side, and we have a caramelized onion dip that we'll make today.
Okay, we're gonna watch Andy to make sure he doesn't stick his fork in there and start eating that.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so for this dip, we have 4 ounces of cream cheese.
All right, cream cheese.
Okay?
Yeah.
You know cream cheese is in it, it's gonna be good, right?
Yes, yes.
Now, do you need to soften that, or can you take it right out of the fridge?
Well, you do want to soften your cream cheese. It makes it easier to mix together. Okay,
All right.
so we have 4 ounces of
So that's
cream
4
cheese.
ounces. Okay.
All right. Next, we will have a 1/2 cup of sour cream.
Sour cream.
Anything with sour cream, cream cheese, let you know it has fat, but it'll be good.
Well, can you use the no fat, or do you just need to go for the gusto?
If you want to, you can lighten the recipe by doing a low or a light sour cream. Would be good.
Yeah,
We
we're going for the
also
gusto
have-
today.
We have a 1/2 cup of mayo.
All right, mayo.
All right. We're gonna add all of that in. And from here, what we want to do is blend the 2 together, blend
Right.
the 3 together. All right. So a good mixer, we're gonna put this down in our mixer and we're gonna blend it until it's smooth. Okay.
And so we're going for the somewhat smooth. look.
Somewhat smooth.
Okay,
You wanna
I
make
like
sure
that.
it's smooth and creamy because that makes the onion dip, right?
Right.
Smooth and creamy.
Now, when you serve this, do you start the day before just so it has time to cool down and mix, or can you do it right before, or what's the timing on that?
It would be nice to make it a day before, just to allow the flavors to be in.
Oh, yeah,
Because the next thing that we're adding is actually our spices or our seasonings, okay?
Okay.
And so I have a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, which I'll
Right.
add. And we've already added salt into the recipe, but if you wanted to omit the salt, you can.
Okay.
Again, it's a personal preference.
Okay.
And then I'm adding a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper,
Ah, there's your pepper.
okay? And then just to kick it up a notch, I'm adding a little cognac pepper.
Excellent. Look, cayenne.
Yes, pepper.
All right.
Okay. Very flavorful. So we're gonna mix this together again, making sure we get all the flavors blended together. You can make it ahead of time, just allowing those flavors to blend.
Okay. Now,
That's
do you
the
make this
key.
often?
I do, I
Okay.
do. For any gathering, any events, you know, a lot of times, you know, it's the summertime, we have a lot of parties.
Right.
The grill is on, so this would be a good dip to make.
Okay.
And
How
I
long does
usually-
it keep in the refrigerator?
It will keep for about a week or so, 2 weeks or so. It's actually really tasty, Andy, so I don't really think it's gonna last long. All right, so the next thing that we are about to add are our caramelized onions.
right.
And notice these have cooled, okay? So you wanna allow those onions to cool. And from the 2 onions that we've made, this makes about a cup.
Wow, from 2 onions.
Onions, yeah, it
onions,
really
okay.
condenses it.
Wow.
Yes, it really cuts down on the onions. All right, so we are just gonna mix this together.
It's real nice. And while you do that, we actually had onions in our own garden.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have some on the table down here at the end. So those are the onions that we grew at a garden out back. Little
right.
demonstration garden.
Well, good. Yes. And so this is our finished product of the caramelized onion dip, okay? You can actually blend it more or you can continue to stir it, and this dip tastes well with chips, crackers, or even any type of fresh vegetables.
Or even a baked potato.
A baked potato would
Oh,
be
that'd
good.
be more, yeah.
Yeah. Let's put it to the test.
All right, are you
All right.
ready to test it?
I'm ready to test. You ready,
Okay.
Andy?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. As he
right.
reaches for the plates.
Is there a limit on how much we can eat?
No, there's not a limit. Let me just get you some chips. And this dip has already been chilled. Okay, again, you want it to chill for the flavors to
Okay, want it
blend.
to chill. All right.
Okay, and I'll just let you all be the judge of it. How about that?
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
we can do that.
All right,
Yeah,
there you
thank
go,
you.
Andy. There you go, Chris.
All right. All right, this is fun.
You get the onion flavor, and it's very creamy.
Yes,
It is.
has a creamy,
When you
smooth
think of
taste.
dips,
to it.
you really think to add cream cheese. Normally you get the sour cream, and this kind of takes the bite away from it, but it really spreads the flavor out really well.
There you go. There you go. And
So
there you
this
have-
is good.
You like that?
This is good.
All right. Well, that's the caramelized onion dip. Again, real quick to make, but the caramelized onion does take time.
And it does take time.
It does take time.
But it's worth it.
Good. It is.
Okay. Well, thank you, Priscilla.
Thank you.
There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks that might interest you. Here are just a few in our area. All right, Priscilla, that was great.
Thank
We definitely
you.
appreciate you making it for us. Did you like that, Andy?
I sure did.
Good. Now,
good.
let's talk about summer critters. Okay, as you can see, we have a table full of critters. So, Andy, where would you like to start?
Well, I guess we'll start with lightning bugs.
Okay, let's do that.
Kind of the sounds of summer. We have a very busy schedule, so we typically, even the summer, get home at night.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear the sound of the cicadas in the background, but most magically, you see the lightning bugs flashing in the background. And so today I want to talk a little bit about lightning bugs since they're so much fun. I had great intentions of bringing a big old case of lightning bugs, but the nieces and nephews I thought that would help me catch all those are out of town.
Okay.
They're a lot harder, but actually you see them flashing, and you realize that's kind of the part of their life cycle. All insects have very similar life cycles, even though they have very different habitats and diets. Lightning bugs, like many other insects, go through complete metamorphosis. They start off as eggs. They go into a larval form. The larvae eat, basically the job is to hide and eat for about a year.
Okay.
And then at the end of the season or at various points in the season, they pupate. They go into another stage, and the adults emerge from the pupa.
Okay.
And the term for the lightning bugs, the larvae eat bugs and snails and worms that are carnivorous that live underground. When they emerge as an adult, it's not fully understood what they eat. Some adults do eat other, are predatory and eat other, particularly insects. Some eat nectar. Some have mouth parts but don't eat at all. Wow. But the main job of any adult insect is to procreate, and so they try to find and attract a mate. So the way lightning bugs do it is by signaling.
Okay.
And so when you see them out in the backyard, and really the best place in your backyard to find them are in trees and grass around marshy sorts of areas. But the females hang out on the trees and the bushes, sometimes on the ground, and they watch the males go on by flashing. And each species has its own characteristic flashing pattern. The flashing, by the way, is bioluminescence. Basically, it's a chemical reaction between chemicals inside the abdomen of the lightning bug, and it's 100% pure cold light. Wow. By way of comparison, and one of the old-style incandescent bulbs, about 10% of the energy is converted to light, and the rest into radiant heat. But it's very cool light. But the patterns are characteristic of the individual species. And so when the female sees flashy lights, she flashes back. And they keep flashing, and then magic happens.
Oh, wow. How about that?
For some species of lightning bugs, after the female has mated with her own species, she changes her light pattern to that of another species in order to attract males of other species, which they eat. And
Which they eat.
I mean, in humans, that would make for a really great movie. But anyhow, it's fun to catch them in jars and such. These are observation, we call them bug boxes. And you can see, looking, well,
I like those.
They have magnification tops. They have perforations for ventilation, and the bugs are on the bottom. That one's resting. This is one of the lightning bugs, and they're different species, and they come out at different times of day and have different light flashing patterns. Actually, lightning bug populations are in decline, and they're in decline due to urbanization. We're taking over habitat for the larvae, but also light pollution. If you've got a bunch of bright, unnatural light, that interferes with their mating process. But there's some also really cool bugs that you're likely to find. This one actually was found in the WKNO parking lot.
Right.
And hopefully she won't pinch me, but this is a Hercules beetle.
Right. It's found by our producer, Amy.
Exactly.
How about that? It's a real pet.
Everyone can see it, but their life cycle, their larvae actually are part of the decomposers on the forest floor, and they spend a lot of time chewing up and eating trees and vegetation. Okay. The adults are not sure what they eat. They mainly go around trying to find mates, but some people believe they may eat tree sap, and some people believe they may not eat at all. But they are sexually dimorphic. The sexes are different, and the females don't have a characteristic horn. And before this one flies off or does something wrong, we could end up on YouTube in a bad way. But this is a male Hercules beetle, and I don't know if our viewers can see, but it actually has a horn that comes out, and the purpose of that is really unclear. But it's part of you can easily tell the males and females. Okay. These are two completely different colors.
Right, they are.
And this is a preserved specimen, and actually the shell color, it becomes darker when it's moist, and it becomes lighter as
Wow.
as it dries out. So basically, if you, it's fun to observe insects, but just let them go. They're not going to live long for you anyway.
Right.
And
That was sticking to
yeah,
you.
yeah, really. This one really likes me. But there's all sorts of fun things like the bug boxes and nets you can buy commercially that provide great ways to catch and observe insects where you let them go. Now, you find turtles when you're out.
Yes.
And a question I get a lot, do they make good pets? And the answer is no.
Okay.
There are two completely sets of reasons. One, in Tennessee it's illegal. In August 2012, the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency put rules out that prohibits keeping turtles as pets, either native or non-native. And their concern is about salmonella. That's a bacteria that's present in a lot of things.
Right.
And there's concern about the health of individuals. Someone who makes a living taking care of turtles and that sort of stuff, and I've taken care of them all my life, they're difficult to take care of. They have special requirements for lighting, for housing, for diet. For box turtles in particular, this box turtle is nicknamed Hamburger. This is a long-term captive at the Nature Center. She was there before I got here. This turtle is easily 25 or more years old.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the people who got her initially fed her nothing but hamburger, and it didn't provide the right nutrients for proper shell growth. And so she has a permanently deformed shell. Had we not got her when we did, it would have progressed into metabolic bone disease, which the bones become depleted of minerals, deformed, and it's obviously not good. In way of comparison, this is I believe a captive bred or TWA compensated box turtle, but it's got the normal shell pattern.
Right.
This one's too used to people to drop into its shell, but this one, if it's released to the wild, could draw back up into its shell.
Okay.
But box turtle populations are diminishing, and so if you're trying to keep box turtles as pets, even if you have proper accommodations, it's contributing to the decline of the species.
Okay.
Now, growing up, we used to buy these quarter-size red-eared sliders. They're turtles that live in the lake, and they really are cute, attractive. See, we just kind of swap this out. Turtles, we didn't know it, but torture them. We kept them in those little kidney-shaped plastic wading pool-looking things and fed them dried flies. And so that's really not ideal. Yeah, they need you see them basking in the wild. They need full spectrum sunlight, both for.
Right. I see them on logs all the time and
exactly.
And ponds. Yeah.
And you got to ask yourself, if you take one of those cute little turtles home, and this one's not even full grown, but look how big it gets.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to get scratched there, but I mean, you need at least a 55-gallon aquarium.
That's a pretty big turtle.
I mean, that's special lighting. And so, one thing I didn't mention: sanitation.
Okay.
They are poop factories. What is their job? They eat, and at the Nature Center, all our aquatic turtles are fed in separate tanks, so they don't foul their regular tank. The regular tank, the water, we have powerful filters. The water is changed completely twice a week. So that's a lot of commitment. But again, they're illegal due to health reasons. And then who wants to take on that much responsibility?
Wow. It's good information, Andy.
Oh,
I didn't know all of that, so definitely appreciate that. Okay, here's our Q&A session. Y'all ready for this?
Absolutely.
And Priscilla, you can just jump right on in there with us, all right?
I sure will.
All right. Here's our first question. One of my tomatoes has a black spot on the bottom of it. Is something eating it? No, that would be your blossom end rot. Okay, we see that a lot this time of the year. It's just a lack of calcium in the developing fruit.
Okay.
So how do you prevent that?
This is how you can prevent it. Soil test is always good.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And where can you get that?
You can get that in the extension office. You can get it here in Shelby County, or you can get it in Tipton County. I'm sure y'all have that there.
We do.
But yeah, get your soil tested. You need calcium in the soil. So what's happening is the plant is not able to take up the calcium. Okay. So lime, you have to lime your soil because that lime is calcium. And another factor is extreme fluctuations between moisture. Okay, it could be either too dry or it could be too wet, which is why you should mulch your tomatoes to help regulate soil moisture. Okay, so if you do those two things, then you'll be fine. But you can always tell when your tomato is going to have the blossom end rot, because right at the blossom end, the bottom of it, you can see sunken dark lesions. Okay, and they look leathery, almost leathery to the touch.
Well, if you see that, should you just cut it off and go on, or what do you do about it?
Some people do cut it off.
Okay.
You can do that. Most people I know throw them away because they don't like it. Just doesn't look good aesthetically. But yeah, you can cut that off, and I've known people to eat them. You know, just eat the rest of the tomato. You know, whether it be green or ripe or not. But that's your blossom end rot. And I've also known, and this is the old timers like my grandparents, crushed eggs shells.
Oh, well, of course.
Yeah, they would incorporate that into the soil, and they would also use, you know, the Tums tablets. Those are calcium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they would, you know, crush those up and put those in the soil as well.
Well, the crushed eggs are a good solution. Instead of composting, you can dry them and grind them up.
Yeah.
You talk about the box turtles. We actually, part of their diet actually has some crushed eggs mixed into their turtle salads.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, just
Turtle
good-
salad.
Interesting.
How about that? Okay. Well, there you it. Blossom end
Right.
rot. Okay. Here's the second question. There's some white powdery stuff on the end of my leaves of my crepe myrtle.
Oh.
What is it? How do I control it, Andy? I'm sure you know what that is.
Well, it's our friend powdery mildew.
It's powdery mildew.
And it's once you have powdery mildew, there's not a lot you can do about it. But you can avoid it pretty easily. A lot of the powdery mildew, basically, and by the way, the powdery mildew that affects crepe myrtles, typically is fairly species specific. It may get some other things, but if you have other plants nearby, it's highly likely they wouldn't get that because they're not a crepe myrtle.
Right.
But people who do what some people call crepe murder, when you cut your crepe myrtles
them
way
in.
back,
Okay.
what you do is you force growth out of localized areas, and so you have lots of tender new growth in the same area, and the powdery mildew just loves that. Where do you get the powdery mildew? Well, it blows around, but if you don't pick up your own leaves from
Right.
the last season and that sort of stuff, you're going to get it again the next year.
Right. Good sanitation practices. I mean, if you see it, go ahead and prune it off. If you have those suckers, you know,
Yeah,
go ahead
that-
and prune those suckers off because the suckers can also have powdery mildew.
And those suckers grow so fast.
They go real fast. Okay. There are resistant varieties out there. So
But even the resistant varieties, they resist. They're not immune.
Right.
So you've got to be proper plant hygiene.
and you definitely want to plant it in the right conditions, the full sun. You don't want to be crowded. Okay. You want to make sure it's open so you get good air circulation in there too. as
Water
well.
in the morning.
Water in the morning would be good. But here again, powdery mildew is out there. You usually see powdery mildew when you have like warm days, cool nights. Okay, powdery mildew. And I'll tell you something else too that leads to a lot of powdery mildew. Humidity.
Yeah.
Humidity leads to a lot of powdery mildew in this area.
Yeah, and if you water at the wrong time or
Yeah.
top water, you can actually increase the relative humidity.
You sure can. All right, here's our next question. Can I sod my yard now? And it actually sounds like a Booker question. He'll love that
Oh, yeah, it's
because
in
he
the back.
loves the grass.
You'll send
you
the
know?
Booker signal up front.
So let me summon my inner Booker and see if I can answer this question. You can sod your grass any time of the year.
Okay.
Okay, any time of the year before you actually go about sodding your grass, come to the office again, get your soil tested, pick up a soil kit here in Tipton County. You want to till that area, okay? You can smooth the area out. Get your sod. You only have 24 hours. Now, when you get your sod, if you're getting a bulk supply of the sod, 24 hours, because that stuff gets pretty hot in the middle, and it just starts to cook. So make sure you get that down within 24 hours. Watering, very important. Okay, you have to water it a lot because the sod has to take root.
Yeah.
And it usually takes 2 to 3 weeks for that to happen, for it to be well rooted. And if you want to find out, then do the tug test. Just tug at it and see if it's well rooted or not. And then after that, you can kind of dial the watering back.
Down.
Now, watering, you don't want it to be soggy, not muddy, just needs to be moist.
Now, what about fescue sod this time of year? Like,
Fescue sod to be tough because
Yeah.
fescue is a cool
season.
season grass. So it wants to be dormant in the summertime. You can get it to thrive, but you're going to have to push the water to it.
yeah, you have to
you know,
devote
it
your
wants
life
to
to
do
it.
that.
And it'd be a lot easier just to, particularly with fescue, it seeds so readily. It'd
Yeah,
be a
it
lot
does.
easier just to wait a few months and seed rather than kill yourself in the heat of summer.
I would do the seed route. You know, sod can be expensive. Okay, so just grab you some seed. Do that in the fall of the year if you're going to do the fescue, and I think you'd be fine.
But even with particularly Bermuda, you can get kits of seed at a lot of local stores
Yeah, you
that
can
have,
get that anywhere now.
and they have humectants built into them, so you don't have to go buy straw. Humectants are things to keep the seeds moist while they germinate,
Right.
and particularly to have patches, you can avoid the expense. And if you can get the seed successfully started, and for a hot season sort of grass, you'll probably get better long-term results.
Yeah, you will. We have 30 seconds. All right, so let me get to this real quick. Who do I call when I'm interested in getting my trees pruned? That would be a certified arborist.
Exactly.
Okay? If you want to find a certified arborist, www.isa-arbor.com. Put in your location. It generates a list for your area. Call one of them. They're good people.
Great.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
all we have time for today. Don't forget, you can send a letter or an email with your gardening questions. I'm Chris Cooper. Thanks for watching, and be sure to join us next time for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Good Winds Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.